see by the heading and the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about Scott Sire. First off, in canon, I don't think Scott Sire will be making any appearance, if any at all, because I think a lot of the way that the show is working is that it's focusing on the present. Like, people like from the past are going to come up. Maybe they'll come up in like outros and stuff, like when people are making epilogue type style videos. But in the series itself, I don't think new people are just going to show up. So I don't think we're gonna see Lewis. I don't think we're gonna see Elle. Elle. Those are bad examples because they're both dead. But I don't think we're gonna see Cherry, and I don't think we're gonna see whoever Scott's Sire may be. That's why I think Scott's Sire is the perfect breeding ground for headcanons, for theories, for fanon to make up who this is, and that is personally what I'm here to do. There are three ways I think Scott's Sire can go, with the first way being silly. Sorry, positioning myself to get myself out of frame. I think I've seen some stuff about Scott Sire on Tumblr and stuff, and I think it's very fun. Because I saw this whole post about Scott Sire being mumbo jumbo, or just a vampire, like an really old vampire being mumbo jumbo. I don't know, and it was just fun. Like Scott Sire, like if he's just like a silly, goofy kind of guy who's just like, yeah, I love people. I'm just here to hang out and chill and have a good time. In comparison to Scott's, I'm gonna murder everyone just for the fun of it. I think that would be a very fun contrast, and people just being like, how did Scott come from this? And it genuinely just being like, that's what Scott was like beforehand. That's just Scott's own volition. Like, I think silly could be very fun, especially like if we get a cameo from like one of like a content creator, and it would just be so perfect. Some people I have in mind for silly is of course Mumbo Jumbo. I would love for LD Shadow Lady to just make a Vampire SMP appearance. Never gonna happen, but I love Lizzie so much. Um, Other people who I think could fall like as a good sire in the silly category, like just who I would like to see as like a cameo or one shot appearance. Um, who would make a good silly vampire sire? Because all we know about Skull's backstory is that he just kind of wanted to be a vampire for the fun of the game. Like that's like he just wanted to live longer and live, laugh, love for longer. But also we don't know how much of his story is the truth, because don't we rarely get to see what his inner thoughts are like, because most of the time he is lying, and whether that to be to himself, to the audience, to everyone else in town, he is gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. So he like I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, Scott's origins are very mysterious, and I think that's part of the fun of the character. But I think if it was just like the contrast of serious, not serious, like fun, charismatic, I'm gonna kill everyone and like play with my food kind of vibe, contrasted with the, yeah, I just like having fun. I'm just here to have a good time. I think it's just fun. I think it would be really fun. Um, the second option for who Scott Sire could be is scary. I think the second option for Scott Sire is like the evil of all evils from which Scott originated. I think it's to teach the pitiful children that Scott Sire is scary. That's my main, like, for each of my ideas I have like a source point. For this, I think it's teach the pitiful children. I read a lot of fan fiction, so they're kind of all jumbled into one. So I'm not certain on that, but I do think that's the case. Um, so Scott Sire, I think, is like, if he was scary, it's like, oh, we need to like this is where Scott gets it from, and it's bad. Like, potentially we all team up to defeat the big bad guy kind of vibe, you know? Um like I don't know if that's what it, like, if Scott's, I don't like, again, these are all just fan theories because I don't think any of this is gonna happen in canon, but I do think it's fun to think about. Like if Scott Sire was, it was less of how Scott's portraying it of I wanted to be turned, and more of this guy turned me and then I was manipulated, brainwashed into thinking I wanted to be turned. It was just for fun, or that was the cover story I was told to tell people, because that's kind of what Scott's doing to other people. Like he's telling people Drift was an accident, Appa wanted to be turned, Shelby and Pyro ran, blah blah blah, this kind of stuff where he's excusing the turnings. Like that might, like, if Scott's Sire was scary, then that might be where he learned that from, which of course doesn't justify any of his actions, just to say it came from someone above him. But it's like it would just be interesting to play about and read about personally, because I really like Teach the Pitiful Children. Also, if any of you read that and you've seen the last chapter, spoilers for Teach the Pitiful Children, skip to here to ignore the spoilers, I guess. But at the end of the last chapter, when it says something is like creeping up and like older than any of these people or something, I think that's Scott Sire. Like, I don't know, I'm just having strong vibes that it is, and I can't wait for Sunday to have the next episode come out. Chapter? Chapter to come out. I'm all confused in my head. But anyway, it's really, really good. Like, I think that's the main vampire fic I read. Like, I've read so many at this point, but it's really, really good. Yeah. For people who I think I would like a cameo for Scary, I would just like I would like someone to show up in like the skin Pyro used for generic vampire. I would like the stat skin to be a cameo. Other people who I think are scary, who could cameo as scary, that'd be interesting. Build a cameo. Again, don't think that's gonna happen like at all. But and I don't think Philza gives out scary at all either. But he also gives out like, I think Philza can be scary when needed, and but he does give also like a calm, like a you can trust this guy, and then it's gonna turn out scary kind of vibe. I don't know if that's just me, and I don't know if that's just the fan fiction speaking, but other cameos for scary could be. I'm trying to think of like lore heavy YouTubers who also like Minecraft YouTubers who also give off scary vibes. And really kind of just drawing a blank. So I think I'm gonna have to leave it there and then move on to the third theory of what I think Scott Sire can be like. And that is canon type. Canon type being like just a random guy. Like just a random vampiric noble guy, who's just like, hey, do you want to become a vampire? Like selling drugs essentially. And then Scott is like, hell yeah, I'm rich, I'm happy, I'm having a good time, I want to do that forever. I would love for that to just be the rest of my life or forever, or like whatever vampire Scott's reasoning for being a vampire is. But like just a like I think canon adjacent is just a random guy who is just there and who just like turns Scott, disappears. Like, oh yeah, a specific one I say about this, the way that Scott doesn't really talk to his fledglings after to like tell them what's the deal with being a vampire. Like he kind of he explains some stuff, but like never like really like with like they just kind of go back to town after he turns them, after Pyro turns them. There's never really an explanation. So if that's what happened with like Scott, that could be fun. Like he was just turned and then just had to like deal with it himself, like turned his noble friends and they all figured it out together, and that's just how he thinks it's done. Because Vampire Scott doesn't seem as knowing about vampires' history as Vampires Pyro, which I think is very fun and is probably a reflection on the CCs, the content creators. That I think like because Pyro's the one who started the whole Sire thing. Pyro started talking about. I think Pyro's. I don't know if Pyro or Scott started talking about fledglings. Pyro's mentioned a nest. Like I think like these vampire things I've read about in fan fiction. Like Scott doesn't seem to be vampire Scott doesn't seem to be like super aware about. And I think what could be fun is that if he was never taught these things by his sire, because this guy kind of dipped out, like just casually, like here's vampirism, there you go, I'm leaving, like a transaction sort of thing. That could like that's the like as a justification why Scott is a bad vampire, not as in like an evil vampire, but just like doesn't know a lot of stuff about vampires, doesn't really know a lot about instincts. But it just comes from the fact that he was never taught that when he was a fledgling, and he's kind of just lived his immortal life just by like getting by and doing who knows what, just like living, thriving, surviving, thriving, like just like he did what felt right, and for him that was enslave an entire town, and turn a bunch of his noble friends, which probably caused everything that's happening in Oakhurst. Like I saw this video, all leads all roads lead back to Owen, but if we want to theorize, maybe all roads lead back to Scott, because maybe, okay, hear me out. This is gonna be a wild theory, but you have to hear me out on this. What if Scott Scott sired his noble friends? Fact, we know this. What if one of them sired Lewis, which creates Owen's entire story? Then what if another sired Cleo's like mother vampire or grandfather vampire or like whatever that's going on there? That's got Cleo's whole deal. I don't super know Abolish's whole deal, but I think there's something about something in there. Like I feel like there's something about vampires in there. What if that's where that happened? What if um that's maybe Scott sired the vampire and that vampire killed Shelby? Because we don't have any proof that Shelby's dad was killed by werewolves. We don't know that. Maybe he was killed by vampires. Maybe the creature um that bit Avid was a vampire sired by Scott or sired by someone Scott sired. Which that's just I don't think that's canon. I just think that's a fun idea to what if all of these things happen because of the people Scott sired, so really he is at fault for nearly everything going on in this story. And I just think that's fun. I think that's really fun. Um yeah, I think those are the three types of Scott sires I think could be. Oh, for canon, who I would like to as a cameo. Who would I like to cameo this kind of honestly? For this category, I think it just better the sire be left unknown. So I don't know who I would like as a cameo. Honestly, yeah, it could be anyone. It could be literally just a shadowy figure. I think it just would. I think this idea is fun and explains a lot of stuff going on in canon, which is fun for me. But I think that's mainly my three talking points. So, like, where's the camera? Like, comment, subscribe. Woo. That's how I end the video because I don't know how to end this.